Hi, I'm Sean L. McCarthy, founding editor of The Comics Comic, found wherever you can type The Comics Comic into your electronic devices. Welcome to Last Things First, the show that asks comedians about the historic lasts and firsts in their lives as their comedy careers have blossomed, from young people's dreams to adult people living those dreams, or still dreaming. Questions both big and small are asked and answered. It's hopefully both amusing and illuminating. Comedians, writers, and actors Corinne Fisher and Christina Hutchinson co-host the incredibly successful podcast Guys We Effed, the anti-slut-shaming podcast, which now has more than 200 episodes talking to comedians, porn stars, and more, and a worldwide audience of more than 1 million listeners. They've taken their show on the road to comedy clubs, theaters, TED Talks, and festivals. Now they've released their first book, Effed, being sexually explorative and self-confident in a world that's screwed. So let's get to it! I know, I just made that right.
Yeah? What's gender abusing?
Race mixing, that was just in Patton Oswalt's new special.
Gender abusing?
No, the phrase race mixing and how weird of a phrase that is.
Race mixing.
Yeah.
So meaning...
Like, even if you used it in a positive sense, it would just be weird if you...
Race mixing, yeah, it sounds like a bad term.
I'm for race mixing.
It just sounds like some white person just doesn't like black people. That's what it makes me think of.
So, Corinne and Christina, thanks for being here with me on Last Things First. So, this is very Last Things First. My mother listens to this podcast via her Amazon Echo.
Perfect.
And I was wondering, without saying the name, what would she ask to listen to your podcast? Would she say, please play Guys We Effed? Would she say...
Well, she would say, can we curse on here?
Yeah.
She'd say, Guys We Fucked.
Okay.
Yeah.
But your question is if your mom didn't want to say fucked, is that the question?
No, it's
more
like
without saying it.
Without saying the Amazon version of Siri, because I don't want to set off the machine by saying Alexandra's
okay. Yeah, just Guys We Fucked podcast. Yeah. Okay. I think it's very important to say podcast.
Alexa, play Guys We Fucked.
No, come back. Alexa, please play Last Things First.
It didn't listen to you because she's already on to Guys We Fucked.
Oh, no.
That's actually a really funny idea, is to, like, put in cues for people's, like, media butlers.
Burger King did that for an ad this year.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, for Google Home.
Oh, really? That's funny.
They said, hold this screen up to your computer.
Oh, my gosh. Perfect. Burger King, they know what's up.
But, these are probably questions you didn't even have to consider.
Yeah, I like those questions.
Years ago.
Yeah.
Like when you were starting a podcast, you're like,
now we have a robotic butler.
Oh, well, yeah. What happens when the robots come?
I mean, it was only 4 years ago, but I guess there are more robots now than there were then.
Can robots come? I don't know.
But 4 years ago, when you started the podcast, did you think you would be sitting here promoting a book and that this would really kind of overtake your life? And
No, of course not. No.
Not at all. It's always those ones that go, I guess.
Yeah.
Not at all. I was like, no one's going to listen. I don't care. I'll just be honest and say what I feel. And then, oh no, people listen.
Right, you both went to school to become actresses.
No.
Acting.
She went to film school.
I have a BFA in film
direction.
direction.
School, but then you studied acting.
I mean, I have been in plays
Your
and
professional bio says
stuff.
you're trained in Stanislavski.
Yeah, I mean, because you know why I am trained in Stanislavski because at getting a BFA at SVA, they require you to do acting classes because they say you need to be able to understand the process of an actor to direct an actor, which I thought was great.
So your game plan was to become a director?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it still is my game plan. I mean, I like acting, and I've, was in musicals and straight plays for my whole youth. I was in like 35 plays. But, I prefer being a little bit out of the spotlight, directing, writing, that kind of stuff.
So what was before I get to you, Christina, what was the reality TV phase?
Oh, I mean, my best friend, Tommy, and I
know so little about your previous history.
We were cast in a reality TV show that ended up being on the air, and actually that's a weird connection that Rosebud Baker and I have, because Rosebud Baker was on the TV show.
That's right. Wait, what show is this?
It's called Girls Who Like Boys, and it was about straight women and their gay best friends.
Oh, wow.
And it was a show on... I guess it was Lifetime. It was Lifetime or Bravo. I'm pretty sure it was Lifetime. If you were living in the city, maybe like 6 years ago, the ads were these huge beds, and all the guys and gals were in the bed, and they had a lot of Subway promotion. But yeah, we shot that for a couple months and then we were fired because they were trying to make us do outlandish things. They were like, they wanted to send my best friend to rehab. And he was like, no, I want a future. He's like, I can't have like rehab on my, like, you know, if I don't need to go to rehab, I don't want to just go to rehab. And they were trying to make me say that I was in love with him. And I was like, but I'm not. He's a homosexual. Like,
when you got cast for the show, what was the premise that they told you?
It was just the relationship.
Girls with gay guy best friends?
Yeah, and like we were like the younger ones, and so we were supposed to have be like the party kind of like gay. And we were club kids. We were at the hottest gay clubs every weekend. So that was certainly real, but then they just tried to make us messier than we actually were.
Well, that's another of the dirty open secrets of Hollywood. Is the fact that reality TV is not real. It's
so
all
not real.
I mean, people know that now, I think. Yeah.
There's plenty of people who watch and
I feel like they don't want to believe
right.
that it's scripted, and even if they do know that, they're going to pretend that they don't, just to enjoy the program, the programs.
Did you feel upset that you got fired in the moment?
In the moment, I was devastated, but looking back, I'm really glad I got fired because it was just not true to who I was, and those people sucked. And I mean, also, like, Rosebud will tell you, like, he's just like, no one watched the show. It's fine.
Yeah, I didn't even remember.
Did she have to do anything weird?
No, I think because they had more serious plotlines. I can't remember what hers specifically was, but like one of the gay guys wanted to get married, one of them wanted to adopt a kid, and so it was kind of like the women were like assisting the gay guys in whatever these kind of more serious endeavors they had.
If you would tell me, it's like do coke and be in love.
Yeah,
maybe once President Pence takes over, it'll become a more
ooh, cool.
It'll become a more dramatic,
exciting
premise to resell to Hollywood.
Yeah.
So, Christina, what were you doing before you met up with Corinne?
We met up. I moved to New York City. I transferred to college so I could intern at Saturday Night Live because that was my dream, to be on Saturday Night Live. And
how hard was it to get that internship?
Very hard. I interviewed 3 times and failed all 3 times, meaning I didn't get the internship. And then the last semester of my college career, which you can only intern at SNL when you're in college because it has to be for school credit.
Right.
At NBC. Dina Moles called me and was like, I'm so sorry, Christina, but they're just no one, when you're an intern at SNL, you don't quit. You stay an intern for the rest of your college life. And she's like, and I was like, so sad. I was crying. I remember I worked at the Apple store and I was like, okay, well, if anybody backs down or doesn't want to do it anymore, call me. And then 20 minutes later, she called me and she's like, you know what? Come in on Tuesdays and Saturdays. And I was like, I love you. So that was like one of the best days of my life.
Who was in the cast then?
Kristen Wiig, Amy and Tina just left. Hannibal Buress was a one season Hannibal Buress. Okay. That's how I met him.
Jesse Klein was probably there.
Jesse Klein was there. John Mulaney, Mike O'Brien for writers. Jason Sudeikis was a writer, was an actor. Bill Hader. I would like pass him all the time when he was rehearsing his lines. He took everything so seriously. That's why he's so good. Will Forte, Kristen Wiig, Keenan, obviously he's been there forever. But I was the Betty White Jay-Z episode. That was the semester I was on.
Oh, nice. Were you able to parlay that into a next gig?
Well, at the end of the season for SNL, they have a rap party on the ice skating rink, but they remove the ice. And, so we can, walk without slipping. And I got drunk and I asked John Lutz, who was a writer on the show, who's an improv guy, he's a UCB guy. I was like, what do I have to do to get on the show? Like, what would you recommend? What path? And he's like, you should do stand-up. And I was like, that sounds horrible. But I was like, okay, if I must. And I very reluctantly got into stand-up with the hopes of landing on SNL.
How long after starting stand-up did you meet Corinne?
I'd known her my sophomore year of college, and I started stand-up right after I graduated. Actually, I invited her to my very first show at Broadway Comedy Club. It was a bringer. Didn't know you had to do open mics. I just went right to the bringer show at Broadway Comedy Club, and it was okay. It was, but I was very scared and nervous. But I was like, you know what? This is something I can actually envision because I got my BFA in acting,
right?
So I had all 4 years of Stanislavski, and I was very used to performing in front of people. But with my own words, that was a little scary.
Yeah. We didn't meet through comedy. We met through a job because I'm a couple years older. So I was working at a management company called Liebman Entertainment. We represented actors, including Lin-Manuel Miranda, which is super exciting. And then Christina came to intern there. So and that's how we met. And then we just kind of I was still doing UCB at that time, Upright Citizens Brigade. So I know you know, but for people listening.
Yeah. Were you involved in the improv side or the sketch side more?
Improv. I did improv for many years. Yeah.
Were you on a Herald team?
No, I was not on a Herald team. I had auditioned. I did do better in sketch. Like I had got more callbacks and stuff for mod teams. Because that's like kind of why I left improv, because I was like, I'm good, but I'm not great, and I don't foresee me ever being great at that. Like I always passed my classes on the first try, and I got into 601, but I was just like, I think I'm just going to always be good at this, and I have no interest in doing something that I'm only going to be good at.
Could you tell that yourself, or just by comparing yourself with the other people in your classes?
I could tell. I mean, I didn't feel it in my heart the way that I feel about things like writing, for instance. You know, things that I know I'm like much better at. And then just by comparison, yeah, I mean, there were some people who were super impressive. You're going to see, you know, the Stepfathers, you're going to see TJ and Dave, and you're just like, these people understand this on a level that I don't think I'm going to be able to understand it, nor do I really I didn't feel like the desire to put that much work into it. Like, right. I can tell I love something when I want to put work into it. I just liked it. Like, I liked improv. I found it to be very cathartic, but you know, it's something where you have to rely on that many other people. Like, no thanks.
So you're doing one-person shows. Were you also doing stand-up at the time, or?
No, it was mostly separately, because once I started stand-up, I realized very quickly how much time needed to be dedicated to have a career in stand-up. So I pretty much, as soon as I started stand-up, I realized that was the thing that clicked the most for me, and I quit everything else. So the one-woman show happened, and then because I was on like the storytelling circuit and I'm meeting people who would go on to be like great storytellers for the Moth, like David Crabb, then I kind of like someone came up to me one day and was basically like, oh, I loved your stand-up. And I was like, well, that was storytelling, not stand-up. And they were like, well, you should do stand-up. And then from that day on, I did stand-up.
At what point did the two of you decide to do your own show? Sorry about last night.
That was our comedy duo, the name of our comedy duo. So when Corinne came to my show at Broadway Comedy Club, she was like, would you be interested? She reached out to me on Facebook afterwards, and she was like, would you be interested in doing a project together? And then in addition to, you know, pursuing stand-up separately. And I was like, yeah, sure. I don't know what I'm fucking doing. It's always good to go in and have a project with another person, just so it keeps you on your toes creatively, and it just forces you to you know, think of different ideas. And yeah, it was a good compliment to pursuing stand-up.
What was the first project you did together?
Was it the rap video, or was it the show at Gotham City Improv?
I think we started a live show, and then maybe like probably around the same time we're also shooting some videos.
Yeah. Because I remember one of our first, in our meeting at Corinne's loft in Brooklyn, she was like, okay, we got to go to these Halloween parties and meet these people, because like there'll be people from UCB there who do stand-up. We'll introduce ourselves, and kind of like plotting out like, we got to get into the scene, so here's how we're going to do it.
Right. I mean, because I had this nice like background in like the other side of entertainment, so I had a pretty high level of understanding how to network, I think. And that was like, because that job was very hard on me, but I'm glad I did it, because I learned so many pieces of information that I would later use for my career and our career. For free, so
yeah,
it was great. Yeah, I try to manage all my friends, just because I like see them making like really poor career moves, and I'm like, I can't watch this go down. I need to.
It's hard to direct yourself, you know. It's hard to like take a step back a lot of the times for people. So it's nice to have somebody with that eye.
Oh yeah, you need to talk to other people. You need to have friends in your life that can give you perspective.
Oh my God, yeah. Like my manager's really good at giving stand-up notes. And I'm like, thank God, because with me, like, I'll listen back to my sets all the time, and I'm like, something's not right. And then he'll go in and be like, because you're not connecting with this. I'm like, you're brilliant.
I feel like, at least in my experience as an observer, when I see famous comedians start to lose it or go off the rails, it's because they're surrounded with yes people who either want to suck up to them or are too afraid.
That doesn't help anybody.
Or too afraid to give them bad news.
I hate that. Like we hate when people are very kiss assy, because it's like, well, that's not going to help. If you see my set, I'm not interested in your compliment. Like, I would like to know what you liked about it so I can hone in on that, but also I want to know what you thought didn't make sense or what didn't connect or what was rocky to you. Like, that's what I want to know.
Yeah, yesing people to death is the demise of anyone in entertainment, not just comedy. I mean, it truly, I mean, like, watch the Lady Gaga documentary.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of... Yeah, people revert, a lot of celebrities revert to this childlike behavior, and it's because it's not normal for an adult to kind of be coddled the way that people in the entertainment business are coddled. Like, anytime I feel even like that's happening in the slightest, I like try to bat it away. I'm like, no, I'll do it. Let me carry my own shit. Let me get, you know. I think it's a really dangerous territory that can come up on you pretty quickly.
Yeah, we always tell our agents, like, stop. Cool with the compliments, but like, tell us what we could be doing better. Give us feedback on it. Critical feedback.
Yeah.
Corinne, you mentioned watching your friends make mistakes. What's the most common thing you see for the people on the come up before they get famous?
Oh God, I mean, a lot of making albums way too early. I mean, for comedians, that's what I see in a venue that's not going to give you the audience response that you deserve or that you want to have on an album, like before anyone wants to buy your album. So then all that material is like trash. No one's going to want it. Signing with representatives just because you're dying to have a representative and not really realizing that, well, number one, once you sign with a representative, like, you're still doing, I would say, 85% of the work yourself. And it's even more dangerous, I think, to have a bad representative than it is to have no representative, honestly. Yeah. So it's dangerous for your money, and it's dangerous for how people perceive you.
It's a bad start to their career. Ryan Reese always told me, like, act like you're a man, you own a restaurant, and your reps are the manager of the restaurant. So you have to direct people. And I thought that was really good advice.
I think the first time I saw the two of you was at Comics.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a bringer show.
I can't even believe you were there. That was literally my first show.
Oh, wow.
Jimmy Fallon and Ryan Reese. And I made Jim Gaffigan take a picture with me. And I was like, Corinne, can you take it? And she's like, oh. And I was like, what? And I just wanted to get pictures.
Wasn't Judah there too, I think?
Oh, maybe it was Judah, not Jim. They were both there.
Well, they were.
Jim was at Gotham, I think.
Oh, yeah.
But Judah would always show up at Comics.
Yeah.
But I was like,
he was a frequent jump in at Comics with an X.
Yeah. And I was like, play it cool, Christina.
I know. I was like, can I get a picture with you, Judah? And my middle school teachers came to that show. And then we got drunk after. It was fun. It was a good night.
Yeah, I had a table of like 14 gay men there to see me. I would have never made it through bringer shows without all my gay friends. They're the only people who had money and like cared to watch entertainment. So thank God.
Bringer shows are weird.
Yeah.
Where were you two at in your careers when you started Guys We Fucked?
In our careers, we had local success, but that was that was about it. But and Corinne always thought this too. But I was always like, we're going to make it. I just don't know how, but we're going to do it. And so I always had this attitude of like, let's just keep doing project after project after project. And then when Guys We Fucked happened, it was post breakup for Corinne, and then she
that was the impetus of it.
Yeah, exactly. So we had a show at Brooklyn Winery that was really big. So we had like a local draw. And yeah, I mean, we just had a lot of stuff going on. We had a 2-woman show at UCB.
Right. We were able to sell it, like to pack a show in New York with like 60 people anytime we did it, which I mean, that's
pretty good.
That's not bad. I wish every show I performed at in a bar had 60 people.
Right, relative to everybody else in the comedy scene.
Great. Yeah.
And we made
sure.
Like our first show at Brooklyn Winery had Kevin Meaney, Hannibal Buress, who the fuck else? There was
Mark Norman.
Mark Norman, yeah. There's a lot of, like, it was a good, I was like, go on, it's okay.
Yeah.
I remember flyering in Williamsburg.
These comics from, like, Rhode Island told me they were like, yeah, we took a trip in from Rhode Island to see that show.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it was a good lineup for, like, $5 or $10, whatever the hell we were charging. Really cheap, yeah.
And that was at the winery?
Yeah, yeah.
Had you done podcasts together before this one?
I mean, I listen to podcasts a lot, but I'd never, and that was before like everyone had a podcast. Like so many people have podcasts now. It's almost like they feel like it's an obligation.
That's the only reason I'm doing it.
And so, the podcasting was the best medium for the project, because it's like you're not going to get a guy to come on and talk about fucking. Honestly, if there's cameras on them or if it's live. You know?
Because we were kind of against podcasting. Like, we had discussed it, and we're just like, oh, like, it's so funny because 4 years ago we were like, ugh, everybody has a podcast.
I know.
Yeah. And now there's like 27,000
if you don't have
more
a podcast,
podcasts.
it's like if you don't have tattoos, you're unique.
Yeah.
No, that is literally the reason.
Like,
I
I
started
respect
mine.
people who don't have podcasts.
I was just like you. I said, why would I have a podcast? There's too many podcasts already. And then, and then I was embarrassed that I didn't have one.
Right. Well, you'll find an audience, and it's a great way to reach people internationally.
Where were you doing it in the beginning, the podcast?
Stand Up New York Labs.
Yeah. Okay.
We went there. We had like this magazine basically that we made of exactly what we wanted the podcast to be, all these descriptions and ideas for episodes, and we really, really fleshed it out.
We pitched it, yeah.
Yeah, and we went to them, we had a meeting, and they were like, this is what we want to do, and they were like, okay.
And you were doing one a week to start? At the start?
We've always done one a week,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, we have bonus episodes that we do now, but those ones are subscription based.
How many episodes in did you realize this was going to be something bigger than you thought it was?
I remember after our first episode recording, because we recorded 5 episodes before we released anything to have a backlog.
Right.
And then after the first episode, and this still happens today, where the first episode was great. It was really fun and interesting. We interviewed Vinny, who's a comedian, and the guy Corinne fucked. And then and I thought it was like, oh, this is really fun and cool. And then afterwards, I remember the guy who was producing it at the time, I believe it was Aaron, was at the board. He was like, that was amazing. And I was like, oh, was it? Because I can't, like, even still when we do the podcast, like, I'm like, oh, was that episode good? I guess it was. I don't have any, it's hard for me to tell, like, how it was. It's just fun to do it. So that was the first time I was like, oh, maybe he got really excited. I just remember how excited Aaron was after we recorded our first episode. So that was like, oh, and then we got press almost immediately after. Corinne's friend worked at the Daily Beast. And he coined our first headline was the podcast Too Hot for iTunes. Yeah. And that was a good...
He asked for an exclusive, and I was like, like, LOL, take whatever you want. Like,
sure.
I was like, sure, you can have the exclusive, like, right. Being like silly about it. And then it turned out he really did get in on something early. I mean, I always thought the idea was brilliant, but I mean, I would just never, I don't even know any podcast besides like Mark Maron's at the time that had even reached levels of this nature. So it was just weird. It just wasn't even a concept that I had thought about.
Yeah, we honestly didn't think anybody would listen. That's why I was like, whatever.
At what point did it start affecting your comedy careers?
Maybe a couple months in, honestly, like I noticed people paying more respect they were respecting us more. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time when, like, the Daily Beast article was really good.
That was like a couple months after, right? Yeah.
I think so.
It was pretty soon.
I mean,
and it dominoed into a lot of other press.
I had no idea. Like, I don't fucking read internet.
Oh,
internet.
You don't read internets?
I don't. Like, I'm not like big on like article. I don't know. I'm just not into that. Whatever. It's all fucking lies anyway.
I didn't know. I wasn't reading the Daily Beast much either. And then Steven reads the Daily Beast, and he gets emails every morning. And we were one of the top articles on the. And I remember I woke up and Steven was like, "Oh my God, look, you're in my Daily Beast daily email." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And then that's when I was like, oh my God, people are actually going to listen to this.
Oh, no, I know as a journalist, that headline, I mean, it can be considered clickbait, but it's
it was true.
It's also one of those headlines that'll work.
Yeah. I remember that day vividly. I mean, that was the day.
It'll probably get iTunes attention too.
Yeah.
And it did.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that's the reason that my current manager he just sent me an email based off that article. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I was really impressed. I'm really impressed to this day that he that's a sign of a good manager, that you see something before it kind of explodes. That's what talent scouting is. Like, right. I was like, wow, this is cool. Yeah. And then it started to heat up pretty quickly from there. Because right after that, we got a article in Huffington Post.
Oh, yeah. And that headline was insane.
That was huge. Yeah.
That headline was Meet the Women Changing the Way We Think About Female Sexuality. And I was like, God damn, HuffPo. That's quite a title. And then I think that's when I had like a little mini panic attack of like, oh no, people are going to hear me talking about my pussy. But whatever.
Was there pressure either from outside or from yourselves to start trying to do live shows?
No, we were doing
immediately,
live show. We have been doing live shows
but
before.
the live show of the podcast.
Oh, that didn't come along until we signed with CAA and then had a touring division. But we kind of always knew that we would need representation to make that what it needed to be. Because a podcast is easy to kind of wrangle on your own as just like two people because you're doing everything from your computer. But as far as like booking venues and going, touring nationally and internationally, that's too difficult for us to do on the level that it needed to be done on our own.
So what was the moment that triggered CAA and you guys to get together? Was there
a lot of press?
Was there an episode or a...
I don't know. Praveen. I remember Praveen Pandian at CAA is one of our agents. He messaged me on Facebook because he went to Penn State. And he was like, "Hey, my name's Praveen. We're both Penn State alum." And
you're a Penn State alum?
Yeah. Well, I went there for 1 year.
My parents are Penn State alums.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So my mom come back to the podcast.
We are. And so we had mutual friends that I knew, like grad students at Penn State when I went there, and I was like, "Oh, that's so cool." And then I was like, "Oh yeah, CAA is kind of a big deal." And so I let Corinne know, obviously, and then we met them. We had a meeting. It was one of the first times I've ever sat at like a giant conference room table in like beautiful sunny LA with like all these like the full floor to ceiling windows. It was very fancy. And then we had a show that night at the Comedy Store. Guys We Fucked and Friends, we called it. We sold out the main room and which was great because I was like, and then we had all these fans afterwards, like wanting us to sign stuff. I'm like, dude, and I would try to get him to scooch in front of the agents, and I was like, oh wait, what'd you say again? You want me to sign this? Okay. And but the look on Praveen's face when he was outside in the like that little lounge area, the outdoor thing, and at the Comedy Store was like, oh goddamn, and I was like, yes, we got him.
Yeah.
But you did that show yourselves without.
Oh yeah.
Well, we
no
had
agent.
Being able to book out the Comedy Store.
We already had managers.
Yeah, we had managers. I think I was with.
That's a natural progression, to get manager, and then the manager helps you get an agent. So.
Right, but to do a Guys We Effed live show instead of just you two and friends.
Right. How did we even make the connection with the Comedy Store, though?
Rick, maybe. I don't know how I got put in touch with Emily. Emily at the Comedy Store books like the more independent shows and stuff in the main room.
Yeah,
She's amazing. I love her.
Yeah,
she's great.
She's so cute and adorable and hardworking and wonderful.
She lets me use their podcast.
Yeah, we've used it too, and it's fucking haunted. It's haunted. We've interviewed Bobby Lee and Nikki Glazer there, and Bobby Lee told us a story of seeing outside the window next to where we were sitting, just like this guy's floating head, and he's like, I hadn't been, and then I didn't go back for a year, and I was like, holy shit. And it feels
that could just be Bobby Lee though.
No, but it's notoriously haunted, that place. Like, it's got a lot of history. It used to be a mob place, and then they used to like administer illegal abortions there and all this crazy stuff. Wow. Yeah, that's why the Belly Room is called the Belly Room.
So when was that show at the Comedy Store?
That was.
Do you remember the dates for that?
November 4 years ago. No,
it wasn't
3.
4 years ago.
I think 3 maybe.
I thought it was only 2, but I guess
maybe it was 2.
I thought we've only been with CA for 2 years.
Possibly. No concept of time anymore. Or I never know what day it is.
Because we've only sent them one round of Christmas gifts, right? Or 2.
Yes,
or 2.
Because we only got one round of Christmas gifts.
It would be
was
2 though, and like the first one was like we got 2. There was one that was like planet puzzle pieces or something. I remember times by either what I ate, what I wore, or something I bought. So I have to remember.
Yeah, getting Christmas gifts.
Well, maybe
it was only like 2. Our relationship was pretty new with them.
Oh, good. Okay, yeah, 2.
Well, I've been Facebook friends with you, Corinne, longer than with Christina, and I remember. I think that was your fault.
Sorry.
Well, Christina accepts a lot lot of
everyone. Just no criteria.
So she had you're maxed out, right? Almost.
Yeah, but the number always goes down to like 4,994. I'm like, okay. I feel like Facebook just removes friends.
They do,
100%. Because I don't unfriend people, and then people come up to me and like, why did you unfriend me? I'm like, dude, I don't know. I didn't do it on purpose.
It just decides that your friendship is over.
But I bring it up because I remember this point. I don't remember what the year was, but I remember this point where the podcast was popular, but you would post things on Facebook about how you were working at a spa.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
I'm like, how am I going to get out of this?
Popular podcast.
I just had this podcast, and now I'm back at this spa job.
Yeah, it was a really interesting time because it was you were enjoying a lot of success in the comedy community by night, but then by day I was like still a very regular ass person.
Yeah, you had to work at 8 a.m.
I loved it. I loved that job, and honestly, I still miss it to this day.
I go to that spa because it's by me, and every time I call him, it's Corinne's voice. She does the voicemail.
I got a free massage to do the voicemail. Fuck yeah, I was going to do that. Because my boss was like obsessed with the fact that I was a comedian, and he saw like us in Time Out New York, and he like clipped it and like hung it in the break room.
Aww.
It was really nice because I think he runs this really successful couple of spas right now, but he had dreams of being an actor, and he would always like come to the front desk and like do little performances and tell me jokes.
Well, it's funny. Speaking of that first time we were at the Comedy Store, we had Dane Cook on the show last minute because Neil Brennan had texted me like the day of the show, and he was like, I don't know if I can make it tonight to the show because I have a dinner and it's far away because of the traffic thing. And I was like, okay, well, let me know. And so I was pretty positive he was going to back out. So we got Dane Cook to do it. Our friend John Campanelli, who's a comic who's friends with him, asked him. And then he watched our opening, like us coming out on stage and like the reaction and that in the main room when you sell it out and everyone's there for you. It's like this crazy feeling.
It's big,
and
room.
And then he came backstage to say hi to us. And we're like, hey, Dane. And he was saying like, you guys, you guys got fans. That's impressive. And then he was telling us how when he started getting successful but he was still working at a pizza store and he had to like balance this weird, like people were asking for his autograph, but then he had to go to work in the morning. And it was this really interesting. It was really cool to like get that respect from him and to have him tell us that story. I was like, wow.
Right, and no matter what you think of Dane Cook, I mean, he is one of the first examples of someone who really saw the value in having a very close relationship with fans. I remember watching an interview with him where he would kind of like go on AIM, and he would just leave it on, and that's
R.I.P. AIM.
Yeah, that's how he got one of his
AOL
representatives. Like he went into an agent's office and he's just like, I have fans, and he signed on to AIM, and so many people messaged him that the computer froze.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's great. He's still to this day, you can tell, is very serious about fans.
Yeah, and we very much try to like, and we told him this, like model that relationship off of how he conducted his relationship with his fans, and like we always say hi to people after the show, and we always like take the time to talk to people because that's so important because that's who gets you there.
So you've been doing the podcast now for over 4 years.
It'll be 4 years in December.
I've seen you do the podcast at Montreal.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And elsewhere.
Oh, you see Miss Pat?
Yeah.
That one? That was one
Miss
of the
Pat's
best.
Great.
Yes.
She's one of my favorite episodes.
That was the first day I met her was that morning.
Yeah, we didn't know her.
I was like, who is this angel?
But as we talk now in October of 2017, we're seeing this rise of kind of women doing what you kind of have been expressing this whole time about, like taking back control of your body. And
oh, yeah.
Are we witnessing a moment now, or do you think...
We've been trying to do that for a while.
Right, you've been trying to do this. So what's your perspective on where we're at as a society?
Well, we are at a point where more people are talking about it, and more people who are we say this a lot, but like one of the things that doing the podcast has taught me is that 99% of the human population has been sexually harassed at some point, either molested or raped or groped or something, because we hear about it all the goddamn time, and it's an epidemic. And so there's a lot of comfort in coming out of sorts. It's very inconvenient to be a victim of sexual assault because of all the reactions that you're going to get, negative and positive. But where are we today? We're still fucked, and we have a long way to go. And I hopefully I want to make sure that the society is making progress towards figuring out what the fuck is wrong with people and why this keeps happening. But I want to.
Men.
It's mostly men, yeah, absolutely. And a lot of
objectification of women and how we're viewed by society as not whole
as
humans.
less than.
I mean, this needs to start way earlier. Like, we're trying to talk to now adults, and like this should have been conversations that we're starting literally as young as preschool. And in other countries, they do that. I mean, I think there's ebbs and flows in sexuality as well. I think the 90s was a lot more progressive sexually than the early 2000s. I mean, you had people, especially in the entertainment business, like. I mean, it's a kind of a weird example, but like Salt and Pepper were rapping about the things that we still have to reiterate decades and decades ago. And it's crazy. I just feel like a broken record. Then Christina Aguilera comes out and say it. And it's like, then all of a sudden we just forget these messages. I mean, not that we should be getting all our most important messages from entertainment, but I think it's consumed by everyone, no matter your race, gender, or economic situation. So I think it's a powerful way to get a message across.
How does it make the two of you feel that after starting out as actresses or stand-ups, wanting to be directors, that you have this powerful voice?
Feels good
for this movement?
I mean, I've always had a powerful voice, even if I was yelling alone in my room. So it's not like
Now
it's
people
not
listen.
new. It's just nice to. It's nice to know that people care about stuff like this and they want to be part of the conversation. And if we could give the gift of like a voice to people who felt like they had to be silent, I mean, that's really what stand-up is about, because we're still stand-ups at heart. And I mean, that's what stand-ups do. They kind of bring things to light that a lot of people are too scared to talk about. And then that goes into a whole nother thing. It's like, yeah, you're scared of sexually assaulted. As a woman, I'm also scared as a comedian of being told that I can't say the things that I want to say. And it's going to end where America's on its way ending up like fucking Canada. We're gonna have comedians being fined for jokes.
Right.
Owen Benjamin, who is a comic who I love, who I certainly have a lot of different opinions from him, but I think he's smart. I think he thinks for himself. He was just tweeting yesterday that the Brea Improv, he's been performing there. He headlines it once a year, every year for 8 years, and they just canceled his headlining show for this year without even telling him because of comments he made that they construed to be racist.
Didn't his reps fire him too?
He's been fired by his
idiots.
And so it's really
he's been getting a lot of social media fights with people.
And I honestly I follow him very closely on social media. I talk to him a lot, and I think it's really scary that more people aren't, especially more comedians, aren't outraged by the behavior of clubs. And I understand a club is a business, but you are in the business of comedy.
Yeah.
Which has to be, if comedy isn't on the side of free speech and is trying to make hate speech this different thing, which constitutionally it is not, I mean, that just fires me up.
It's like, you gotta be able to. I disagree with a lot of the shit Owen Benjamin says on social media, but he's really passionate about it, and he's still funny, even if I don't agree with the point he's making. He's a comic. He's being hilarious. I don't care that I don't agree with it, and it's like, you don't have to raise a fuss about it if you don't agree with something or if something offends you. Be offended. Ask yourself why or why not if you want to, and then move the fuck on. It's
and
like,
he's super funny and super intelligent.
He's one of the funniest comics I've ever seen. I mean, he's great.
He's good on the piano too.
He is good on the piano. Beautiful voice.
Tall drink of water.
Family.
Oh God, what a
But well, we'll save that. We'll save that for the Owen Benjamin episode.
Yeah, big fans.
Yeah, have him come in here. Yeah,
it's just
next time he's in town.
It's weird when people get offended. And it's like, comedy's the one fucking sacred place where you could say, a comedy club, you say whatever you want. Like, say, even if it doesn't land, like, I can tell when comics do jokes that are like, they just come off as like super offensive and racist or whatever. It's like, well, I get what you're trying to do. You're trying to make a joke here about something edgy, and you just got to find it. You haven't found it yet. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I was just watching, because I'm watching the CNN history of comedy, and then you see Lenny Bruce not too long ago getting arrested for his comedy, and you're like, are we going to go back to that? Because I feel like we are.
Censorship
is fear. It goes in waves.
Yeah.
It goes in waves.
Yeah.
People censor what they're afraid of.
But I'm glad that, the two of you are not afraid.
We are not.
And have been...
A little too unafraid.
Well, I mean...
But that could be a good thing.
I have everyday fears.
It allows you to have the courage to speak out about...
Yeah, it doesn't
about
really...
sex and about all these other things.
I never thought of it as courageous or brave or honestly anything. I just... Because I was like, well, this is how we talk when we're hanging out. So let's bring that conversation to a bigger platform. Because that's how a lot of people talk when they're talking to their closest friends about sex stuff. And then if they don't talk that way, they kind of want to. Right. So it's like, that's why it resonates.
But the fact is, before you guys, it was more like Dr. Ruth or Loveline or...
Yeah.
Just...
I was watching Sex and the City this morning, and I was obsessed with that show. And that was one of the first time, I just watched the episode Are We Sluts? And in season 3. And it's so, I remember when I was 15 watching that show, being obsessed with it, thinking like, this is so edgy. I love it. And like, wow, these women don't give a fuck. I'm obsessed with them.
And what do you think watching it now?
They cared a lot about men liking them, and but whatever. I mean, the show was called Sex and the City. I still love the show. It takes me back. It's one of the things that's very close to my heart. Sex and the City means a lot to me, and I feel like I've grown up to be a comedic Carrie Bradshaw. Because when I was writing the book, I would literally be at my laptop by the window smoking a cigarette and with like my blonde curly hair and like underwear and a tank top, and I was like, oh my God, I'm Carrie Bradshaw.
Well, I look forward to seeing the TV show that they base off of your soon-to-be best-selling book.
Yeah, us too. Please give us a call.
Yeah, let me know when it comes out.
Will do. In the meantime, thanks for being here.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for having us.
This episode of the Comics Comic Presents Last Things First was produced by Alex Brazell at Showbiz Studios. Theme music by Camille Harris and Shockwave, logo by Giggle Chick. Please check out my website, thecomicscomic.com, for more interviews, reviews, and comedy news. Become a paid subscriber at patreon.com. I'm your host, Sean L. McCarthy. Thanks for listening.
Last things first.